Hello everyone, this is a video review for MP11-ND Masterpiece Dirge. This is my first video review since like 2009, so I hope I can get back into the swing of things. So yes, as you can see, this is the last of the Conehead masterpieces. This is Dirge. There's not a lot new about this guy. So there's one cool thing and a couple of other problems. So as you can see, this is him in his alt mode. He is the standard MP11 form with new wings that you can see right there, like that. He's got a couple other new pieces, but we'll talk about that later. So yeah, transformation's not going to be too much crazy, but before we get into that, let's take a look at him with his Conehead brothers. I've got them right here. Here is the first one, Ramjet. And the second one, Thrust. So the cool thing about the Conehead jets is that they always had different wings than everybody else, so that's kind of neat. So yeah, so we've got Ramjet, Dirge, and Thrust. Cool stuff. I have also brought with me, get rid of these guys. And I have brought Classics Dirge, or Generations Dirge, I guess. Classics Dirge was a BotCon exclusive that I don't have. So, mostly paint differences. Heavy paint differences. Masterpiece, of course, trying to match the the G1 sort of character design. So yeah, there's a couple things that I like more about the Classics version than I do about the Masterpiece version, but we'll talk about that as well. All right, so let's get into transformation. Nothing much new here. Let me back this up just a touch. So if you've seen or touched or held an MP11 before, you kind of get the gist of it. We're going to fold up the landing gear in his knees. Those knees, those wonderful knees, are new to the Conehead line. All right, we'll fold up the other landing gear. And that's the same as all the other MP11s. We'll start by unhooking the null rays here on the bottom. And I'm going to raise this up just a touch still. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. So then we'll start by flipping his feet around so that those can be seen. Used for being feet, of course. All right, and then we'll come around to the other side. Open up these back panels here. Flip out the heels, like so. Click those back into place. Now, the next part, so there's cool things about this, and then there's not so cool things about this. So you can see right here, we've got panel lines right there. So what happens is that this comes undone, and then we'll go ahead and do the other side too. Those come undone, and then pulled down on the legs. And so you see these parts are separate. These are the ones that are attached to that usual little clip right here. So while we have this back here, we'll go ahead and I always have trouble with this little back panel here. So I usually pull up the air brake and just kind of wiggle it loose a little bit. There we go. Okay. So of course you take this back panel, fold it up out of the way, and then right here you have those clips that you always have. Just pull those. Oh, see, and now this came detached in the box. Like I pulled out Dirge and that was just sitting there in the little bubble wrap. Which reminds me, I need to show you the packaging, and I'll do that here in a little bit. Okay, so you flip that little clip out right there, as you can see, and that tabs in right here, as on all the other MP11 forms. All right, and then the same thing on this side. Flip that out, tabs in right up in there. Okay. So now the legs. Turning this around. Now there's something you should be aware of. Whereas mold degradation is a thing that I personally think a lot of people kind of play up a little bit. But it's present here in some places and not so much in others. If you look right here, and you might not be able to see it here where the null ray is attached, it came with a stress mark, which means someone at the factory was trying to play with it. These are in there tight. These ball joints right here on the arms, those ball joints are in there hella tight. So be very careful with those. I can see these ball joints snapping off at some point, so be warned, that can happen. So what I do with my null rays is I just sort of like fold them so that they're flush against the arm, like so. And that kind of keeps it out of the way of everything. And of course, I'm handling it very close to the ball joint to avoid snapping. And so they're just flush against the arm, and that way I can deal with the legs. So here's the part that's both cool and not so cool. The one thing absent from the MP11 Dirge mold is that the sliding mechanism on the legs. Oh, it is there. Huh. Okay. So you slide that up. I thought it was absent, but it is in fact there. All right, so here's the part that's kind of cool, but also kind of lame. So what you do is first make sure your legs are extended all the way. All right, so you take this bit and you fold it at this hinge, and it'll stop pretty early. And then there's another hinge here. You fold it all the way at that hinge, and it sort of snaps into place right in here. And then you fold this one, and that also sort of snaps into place. So here's the part that's cool and not so cool. Looking at it like this, it looks like a mess, but later on, when the arm is kind of in the way, you can, at certain angles, you see it sort of like this. And it looks really cool when you can see it like that. But if you take away that obstruction of view, you just have a mess. And I think there's a way they could have like molded this little section differently to make it look more flush in this mode rather. I don't know. That's my only real gripe about Dirge. I kind of wish he would have been the first Conehead as opposed to the last one. Mainly just because I think he ends up being my least favorite, and it has a lot to do with this. Additionally, here on the wing, you have the option to fold this out like that, if you so desire. I don't personally like that very much, so I just leave it folded as such. Anyways, go on to the next side, do the same thing, fold it down. And I like to angle these back a little bit just because separates it from its position, you know, in alt mode. All right, let me adjust one more time. Alrighty. So next, we can move these arms out, just like any other MP11. Rotate as such. Get that hand all folded out. Same on this side. Get that hand all folded out. Oh, sorry. Alright, so here's something that had me confused in the, promotional pictures, is that these looked like the same pieces that came with Ramjet, yet the pictures had them flush up against the arm, which is impossible with the Ramjet mold. Well, it is possible with Dirge. That's not like a photo trick or anything. And the reason is that these are partially remolded parts, and I'll show you here in a second. So let's fold this one down along the edge, like the other. Let's fold out his chest panels, abdomen panels rather. Just like you do for all the others. Rotate the arm as it goes down like such. You start to see the chest forming. Again, rotate the arm at the shoulder. And then for the head, let's adjust one more time. Okay, for the head, with all the the cone heads, this part is completely different. So what you do is you fold right here, where you normally would, and then you take the nose cone down, and you fold it into the chest like you would for any MP11. But here's the part that's different, is that you open up the canopy, at least I open up the canopy, and you rotate this, and that's going to be Dirge's head. You rotate this so that you have clearance along the center of the front of the plane. I don't know the technical word for it. And then you rotate it like this, which I think is super cool. I wish they could take some of the technology from the MP11 cone heads and the MP11 seekers and just sort of combine it so that we get this rotating jet part as well as a real nose cone that hides away. So the way this works is that it just kind of like sits along the back, and that's really too bad. All right, and then you just shunk that down, and you just sort of like adjust your back panel. Let me adjust back down one more time. So yeah, you just sort of adjust your back panel to hide the nose cone. And that's really the best you can do with that. So anyways, and then you have Masterpiece Dirge in his robot form. Looking all right. Looking fine. And so let's take a look at him with his nose cone brothers, as well as some of the new parts here on Dirge. Alright, so here we are with all of the Masterpiece cone heads finally together. So here we have Ramjet, here's Dirge, and here is Thrust. So as you can see, with Dirge's little null rays, they are as flush as all the other null rays along the arm. Whereas if we take a look at Ramjet, his cannot go any more flush than that. And so we'll take a look at why that is. As you can see, if you've seen a ramjet video, you know that these come off and you have the regular null rays behind. It combines together into this little, like, tube. Well, Dirge has a similar thing going on, but they're a little bit different. And so we'll take his off. And I'll show you how to put those back on here in just a minute. So if we take a look at Dirge's, let's see if we can get that to focus correctly. Switch to manual here. Okay, well that's as far as it focuses. So if we take a look, we have a slot here, a slot here, and a slot here. That fits the base of the null ray. Let's see if we can get a closer look here. That fits the base of the null ray perfectly. So you line it up so that you have your slots. Let me turn it around. And then you line this up so that this little peg here lines up with the peg here on the null ray. Sorry, one second. Then you can just collapse it on, and it leaves enough space for you to make it flush against the arm. So the difference here between ramjets and thrusts, or sorry, dirges, there's a whole bunch of stuff missing from dirges that ramjets has that makes it, you know, completely different. It fits completely differently. And the two don't fit together. Like, you can't mix and match at all. So it kind of makes me wish that Dirge either would have come first or would have included parts that allowed you to add on to ramjets and thrusts null rays so that they can all be similar, because the way that ramjets works with not being able to be flush up against the arm, I just don't even use these except for an alt mode, and then I just sort of plug them into his back in robot mode. But the one that I associate, you know, these kind of null rays with is ramjet, you know, before any of the others. So it's really a shame that, you know, Dirge is the one that wears these the best, because that feels like a ramjet thing to me. Either that or all three, and I would personally prefer all three. So they each have not only different wings, but different null rays. If you've never had thrust yet, let's take a look at his null rays. His null rays, like, fold up. Like, they're not like any others at all. When you're in alt mode, they fold up and sort of, like, peek out like this. Like, you just have this little part of it from underneath the wing, depending on how you do it. It doesn't peg into anything and just kind of sits wherever you decide it's supposed to sit. So that's probably my least favorite of the three types of null rays for the cone heads. So anyways, that's Dirge. Yeah, there he is with the rest of the cone heads. I brought a couple other things to check out. Here he is with the original Seeker. Here is Starscream and Dirge. So you can see how they compare. I also brought, one second. I also brought Exhaust, so you can see how he scales with with one of the car Masterpiece figures, and this one's a Decepticon, so seemed fitting. But anyways, that about does it for Dirge. I don't know. He's fine. He's cool. I wish that they would have done more like the Classics mold, where it took these bits but folded them along the back so that they weren't intruding. And I have them here with me as well. And so we have Classics Dirge here, and if you take a look at the back, it folds up like all the other Seekers in the Classics mold, whereas here on Dirge, it's tangled, I guess is the best way to describe it, here along this whole edge. And so, I mean, it doesn't look terrible from behind, but if you catch it at this angle, you know, you can see that mess of pivots and joints, and it just doesn't look good like that. So I just kind of wish that it would have done what the Classics mold did in that sense. But it is good to finally have all of the on-screen named Seekers in the Masterpiece form. Now, before I forget, Dirge does come with one other accessory that all the other MP11s come with, and that's his little pilot. We have one here. This one, his is just a clear pilot, and it just sits right here inside of his cockpit. Just doo-doo-doo. And you've seen that in other MP11 videos. Here is the packaging. Oof, I need to back way up for this. So that is the packaging for MP11-ND Dirge. It's got that new long life design logo on it. Take a look at the back real quick. Just showing various things. Those are his accessories. You got his card, you got his instruction manual, different things that all of the MP11 molds do. And yeah, that about does it. So like I said, there are things that I like about Dirge and things I don't like about Dirge. But I am just mostly glad to have my MP Seeker collection finally complete. I don't have any of the third-party Seekers to compare it to, so I don't have any opinions based on whether or not official is better or not. There's certainly some mold degradation here. He feels strangely lighter than the rest of the Seekers. So I don't know what that's all about. Most parts are looser. These parts are tighter. So please, please, please be careful. That's probably some of the thinnest plastic in the whole figure. So please be careful with those. Those will break. Probably no matter what. I think mine will break eventually if I, keep playing with him like I always do with all my Masterpiece figures. So buyer be warned that this is going to be an issue. These guys are going to break off. Anyways, that wraps it up. Thanks for tuning in, and maybe I'll see you again.